Hi everybody, Arush here. Welcome back to another episode of History Shorts. Today, I will be speaking on the Sino-Indian War of 1962, the Battle of Rezangla, and the current tensions between the two countries. The Sino-Indian War, or the Indo-China border conflict, occurred in the year 1962 from 20th October to 21st November. A Chinese disputed Himalayan region was the main cause of the war. There had also been a series of violent border skirmishes between the two countries when India granted asylum to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Chinese military actions grew increasingly aggressive when India rejected diplomatic settlements proposed by China throughout 1960 to 1962. This led to China abandoning all attempts of peaceful settlements on 20th October 1962. The Chinese army advanced over the Indian forces, capturing Rezangla in Chushul. Now, coming to the Battle of Rezangla. It was a freezing November night, much like any other night in the region at the time, where the temperature can go to as low as minus 25 degrees Celsius, when Indian soldiers of the 13th Battalion Kumaon Regiment were taken over by frostbites, hunger, and were heavily outnumbered. More than 50 kilometers to the north was the Chinese army. The Indian posts of Damchok and Daulat Beg Oldi fell one by one. It was at this time that the company commander of the company got 122 of his men together and informed them about the inability of the brigade headquarters to provide them any artillery support, and that now they felt the war was gone. But I chose to stay here. If any of you wish to go back, you are welcome to do so, said the officer, to whom the soldiers replied, "We will stick with you." The officer, Major Shaitan Singh Bhati, said, "यहाँ पर जीत नहीं होगी, अगले 24 घंटों में हम सब शहीद होंगे." We are not going to win this war. We are 123 men facing an enormous army of 3,000 Chinese soldiers. We are surrounded. The Chinese army attacked repeatedly and were repulsed by the Indian army. A time came when Charlie Company, 13th Battalion, Kumaon Regiment, ran out of ammunition. Our brave men resorted to fighting with hands with an army that wore thick and heavy winter clothing. The Indian army then shifted to fighting with rocks and then were soon out of rocks. The battle lasted through the night, and in the morning, Major Shaitan Singh Bhati had been martyred. Two of his most faithful men hid his body from the Chinese army. Some soldiers who had escaped captivity went to New Delhi and narrated this incident to the Defense Ministry. A special fact-finding force was sent to Rezangla. They couldn't believe their eyes when they saw the bodies of 1,300 Chinese soldiers and 114 Indian soldiers too, including that of Major Shaitan Singh Bhati. He was later awarded the Paramveer Chakra. That concludes the heroic battle of Rezangla, but not the conflict between the two troops. In 2017, a military standoff took place between the Indian Army and the People's Liberation Army of China. This conflict was over the Chinese construction of a road in Doklam near a tri-junction border area. On 18 June 2017, as part of Operation Juniper, 270 Indian troops armed with weapons and 2 bulldozers crossed the Sikkim border into Doklam to prevent the Chinese from building the road. On 28 August, the two nations withdrew their troops from Doklam. In the recent times, India and China have been engaging in border fights again. In late May, the Chinese forces objected to Indian road construction in the Galwan Valley. A fight in the valley on the night of 15 June resulted in the deaths of 20 Indian soldiers, including an officer, and casualties of 43 Chinese soldiers, including one officer. As of recent updates, the Chinese People's Liberation Army has crossed the line of actual control only to face the Special Frontier Forces of India. The Chinese began their activities in the Pangong Tso Lake and were pushed back. the Indian army has occupied Chinese occupied Indian camps. The Indian army to this day carries the spirit of Major Shaitan Singh Bhati. As Kavi Pradeep once wrote, कुछ याद उन्हें भी कर लो जो लौट के घर ना आए. Jai Hind and Vande Mataram.